I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It would be my honor if you join me in prayer. Supreme Architect of the universe, we invoke thy blessing at this time. May this meeting thus begun in peace and close in harmony. Amen.
Amen.
Alrighty. I'd like to welcome everyone to our October 25th, 2012 public business meeting. Commissioners, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
None.
None. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our October 18th, 2012 public business meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, jumping right into our action agenda tonight. Item number 1 is action on Code Home Rule Bill number 7-12. Gentlemen, this is the Bedford Road Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project Bond Authorization. Mr. Bennett, our Director of Finance, it is your microphone, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
This is something we've talked about the last 2 meetings, has been introduced, and we had a hearing last week. Simply a bond bill for the Bedford Road Sanitary Sewer District for $400,000. So tonight would be the opportunity for you guys to go ahead and approve this bond bill. If you do that, it'll become effective December 10th, and we can proceed shortly thereafter with closing the loan. So $400,000 loan. 0.8% interest over 30 years. So very favorable terms.
Very much so. What is your pleasure, Commissioners? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody, to take action on Code Home Rule Bill number 7-12. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, item number 2 today is the introduction of Code Home Rule Bill number 8-12, a subdivision ordinance revision. Good evening, Mr. Dorsey.
Good evening. How are you?
Excellent, sir.
This Code Home Rule Bill is submitted for the purposes of meeting the requirements of Senate Bill 236, also known as the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act. Section of the subdivision regulations dealing with minor subdivisions is being changed. Section 10 of that regulation changes the minor subdivision definition from 5 lots to 7. This is an opportunity enabled by this act. Another section, number 19, basically is an accounting method for counting the number of lots possible, the number of lots that are being created, and the number of lots left to be created of these 7 lots.
Okay, all right.
That's it.
That's it. Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion for introduction.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What will be the layout from here, sir?
Yes, we're recommending that you set a hearing for next week. It can be voted on then at the following week, which would be a legislative day. It would be effective 45 days thereafter. It needs to be in place by December 31st. If it does not, the default under the state law is 5 lots in a minor subdivision. So this allows you to expand it to 7.
Okay. Enough information, gentlemen?
Sure
Okay.
is, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dorsey.
You're welcome.
Okay, item number 3 is fiscal year 2013 budget amendment for the Board of Education. I understand that Mr. Randall Bettinger is here. The CPA, I'm trying to stall for you to walk up. CPA, Chief Business Officer for the Board of Education.
And all that means is it has to do with money and no one else wanted it.
There
So
you
that's-
go.
The business officer
You see
was
how
a
our
lot
timing
easier
worked?
way.
Just ended right in time for you to walk into
I
it.
tell you. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. As you know, the school system, anytime it wants to spend money in one budget category that is different than what you previously approved, we have to come back and ask for your permission to do that. And tonight, what the school system is asking is to reduce the operations section of its budget and increase its instructional wage part of its budget. What's happening is the Maryland State Department of Education, or MSDE, is holding more frequent meetings requiring school system staff to be down in Baltimore more frequently than what we had budgeted for, and it's related to this Common Core curriculum that Maryland is adopting as a race to the top state that was signed on 2 years ago. As a result of these meetings, more extensive work is being needed on the curriculum revision. That requires money, and the school system has made a decision that they believe it's more cost-effective to have our own internal personnel develop that, or develop that new curriculum rather than going out and purchasing a product and then making revisions to that. To pay for this, the school system is wanting to reduce its operations section of its budget category, in part because we had budgeted for having certain costs for the Braddock Campus Hospital, and we thought that would happen in early July. It did not happen until early September, so we were able to save some money, and school system staff continue to work with state officials to reduce those costs. So if you would approve this, it would in no way impact the current county appropriation or any future county appropriation, so we'd submit that to you for your approval.
Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody, to accept this fiscal year 2013 budget amendment for the Board of Education. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 4 is Governor O'Malley's Stream Restoration Challenge. I understand that Mr. Dan DeWitt, Public Works Engineer, is here for a presentation.
Afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon, sir.
Appreciate the chance to speak to you all about this initiative that we've undertaken in the office here. Governor O'Malley's Stream Restoration Challenge was announced back in August. An obligation of $6 million has been made available for stream restoration projects, which is primarily being accomplished via tree planting and also an effort to increase environmental literacy with our local middle and high school students. This is in alignment with our county TMDL initiatives. We've committed to pursue funding each year to try to plant 8 acres of forested stream buffers. And that work is currently being done through our partners at Soil Conservation, Department of Agriculture, DNR, Forest Service. So that's work that is going on basically outside of our walls that we support and we're excited about because it helps make the reduction that we need to make for the Bay TMDL without requiring us to pursue anything additional. So when this opportunity came along, that work they're doing is something that would happen with or without this project. But we learned from one of our internal work groups that the county has a lot of flood buyout properties that were purchased to eliminate some flooding risks in homes in areas that are in the Wills Creek area, primarily, and down along Georges Creek that are sitting vacant right now that are a maintenance responsibility for some of our employees in terms of grass cutting or brush cutting or what have you. And this would be a good opportunity to plant some trees in those lots and help us meet or exceed our goals committed to under the Bay TMDL. So we work pretty closely with Board of Education, Soil Conservation, DNR, Forest Service, Nature Conservancy, City of Cumberland, to come up with a list of areas that we could plant. We have about 25 acres identified that we're going to try to plant in the spring of 2013. We relied a lot on the technical advice of our partners from Forest Service and the City of Cumberland, our 2 foresters, Dan Hedrick and Paul Erickson. I know very little myself about forestry or what types of trees would be appropriate in these areas. So we relied on them for their recommendations on what would work best, what would last the longest, and not just be put into the ground and be dead a year later. So I want to make sure that if we do this, it's gonna work to the best of our knowledge, and that we can get as much money from the state as we can to make sure that happens. So our total project cost is that we're seeking is $150,000. That's a state funding request of nearly $132,000 with an in-kind match of nearly $19,000. And that in-kind match is no cash that's required from us. It's primarily the time from that I put into putting the application together, along with Angie Patterson and Greg Hildreth here in our office, as well as some time that we'll ask our surveyor to survey the property corners, make sure we're planting in the right areas, and also time from our foresters and putting the planning plans together to make sure that we have a good application. So it's really in-kind time that we don't have to pay. It's staff time, basically. As I mentioned, our milestone goal is 8 acres. If we receive all the money we're asking for, we'll have 25 acres, which will put us more than 3 times ahead of our goal, which is a good thing for us, and it's not requiring really anything above and beyond what we've committed to do. I mean, we've put the application together, and at this point, if we get the money we're after, then will be wonderful for us. So the timeline for this, we're hoping that we can get approval from you all to submit this grant application, and we'll be turning it in tomorrow. Hopefully the deadline is on Halloween next week. We'll find out shortly after Thanksgiving whether or not we're successful with our application, and then the money's able to be spent after the new year. And we're hoping to tie in the students from local high schools via the environmental science teachers. We've been in contact with them through this process, and they're going to be going over in the classroom the value of planting trees and how it will help the bay. And then later in the spring, they'll come out, hopefully about 100 students total, earn some service learning hours, and come out for a few hours to different planting sites around the county to help us plant some trees. Not do all the labor. We're going to contract out most of the labor, but just leave a few to give them the idea of what we're doing and how it's beneficial. So I want to thank Angie Patterson and Greg Hildreth from here at our office, and also Dan Hedrick and Paul Erickson, our foresters, our experts on this, and Craig Hartsock, Danelle Keach, and Bill Detterman for really, that was kind of the core group that really put this together. And it's a win-win for us because we're showing that we're doing our part for the Bay TMDL without having to come up with a huge sum of money to do it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but appreciate the time.
Okay. Gentlemen? Commissioners, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the county commissioners to sign a letter to submit to the Allegheny County's proposal for Governor O'Malley's Stream Restoration Challenge.
So moved.
Yes, really?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
On a sidebar, Dan, thank you very much for your service, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Commissioner, here's the letter if you would like to sign it.
I understand as you get older, attention span, so we had to wait for him to sign it. Commissioners, item number 5 is the Rawlings Water Transmission Line Contract W-34. I understand that Mr. Yoder is here to explain this line project.
Hello, Commissioners.
Hello, sir.
I'm here today to talk about the Rawlings Water Transmission Contract. We bid the project on October 16th. The bids were broken down into several bid schedules, mainly because we weren't exactly sure how much funding we're going to have available, so we wanted to give us some flexibility. Right now, we have a grant, a block grant from CDBG of $800,000, which is a little less than the first phase of the project of $840,000. But we think we can adjust the scope enough to get in under the $800,000. The entire project, as was reported in the paper, totals up to about $1.5 million. Right now we have $800,000. We feel there's a chance some more money might come along even during the construction. And if that's the case, we'd like to go ahead and award other schedules out of that bid as funding becomes available. Fortunately, the low bidder was low on every schedule across the board, so it was all, however many schedules we awarded wouldn't have affected the low bid contractor. The section we have money for right now would go from American Woodmark up 220 to about Maple Lane. It won't cover any of the side streets between American Woodmark and Maple Lane at this point. But like I say, we're optimistic we might pick up some additional funding, and if not, they'll come in subsequent funding years. So this will be a multi-phase project in Rawlings over several years probably. So I'm asking that we go ahead and that you authorize the award of to Excavating Associates as the low bidder.
All right. Commissioners like to entertain a motion to approve the award for the Rawlings Water Transmission Line Project.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Mr. Eberly, what do we have on our consent agenda today, please, sir?
Commissioners, today we have 3 items on the agenda. We have a travel request, a board appointment, and an opportunity to include a portion of Georges Creek Boulevard in LaVale into the county's road service system.
Gentlemen, like to entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Eberly.
Commissioners, this week we received bids for the demolition of 15,001 National Highway in LaVale. We hope to be reviewing those bids and having a formal recommendation back to you very soon. And additionally, I have just this afternoon contacted Susan Lee, and I'd like for her to come forward and just give us a public service update on Tropical Depression Sandy and what that might mean for us here in Allegany County.
Good evening. Actually, she's Hurricane Sandy now.
Hurricane, oh.
Yes. The storm has defied some of the experts' predictions by becoming much larger and stronger than originally anticipated. And because of several competing meteorological conditions, the storm is basically going to be almost trapped along the East Coast as it travels up the eastern seaboard. And normally, what you see with a storm like this is that after it reaches the mid-latitude points around the mid-Atlantic states, it begins to curve outward to sea. Unfortunately, according to the current models, the competing systems are going to force it to curve back into the East Coast. There is not strong agreement right now where that curve is going to occur. They have basically narrowed it down to somewhere between the Delmarva area and the New England area. The European models, which have been very, very accurate in recent history, forecast the curve closer to our neighborhood in the state of Maryland. But a lot of the other models do have the storm making landfall up around New Jersey, Boston, somewhere in that area.
They can keep it.
I think a lot
Absolutely.
will happen. We really won't know the storm track, what will happen to it for us until probably Sunday. It's going to begin to interact with cold front that's coming down from the north. Right now, I handed out a little presentation that we discussed with the state of Maryland this afternoon, and they give 3 scenarios. Right now, the most likely impact will be further east than here, although Garrett may have some snowfall. But if that curve happens sooner, we may have significant rainfall or heavy wet snow. If we have that, there's another issue with this kind of a storm as it travels up towards the mid-Atlantic. It physically begins to unwind a little bit, and when it unwinds, the wind field becomes very large. So normally, where you might only have tropical storm force winds in up through the Potomac into D.C. and beyond a little bit, we could conceivably have that here as well. So combined with potential heavy rain or heavy wet snow and high winds, we could be looking at some very severe power outage issues. So we're going to continue to monitor this very closely. Between tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning and Sunday night, I think we have scheduled 8 conference calls with the state and the National Weather Services to keep on top of the track of this storm. The state of Maryland should begin feeling some of the storm force winds Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. And again, that will probably be our best bet. By Saturday, we'll have a much better picture of what the track will be. And then by Sunday, the forecast will be very much tightened up. So it looks like we may get something.
And the good news is?
Well,
got a
the good
colorful
news is
map
that
here.
eventually it will pass through. There's another aspect, too, that's a little negative for us. This will be a very slow-moving event. So rather than a storm that passes through in several hours, it could be a day to 2 days that it lingers in our neighborhood. Again, it's a very big storm. When you look at the satellite image of it, you can see the expanse of the bands. So if it just kind of creeps up the coast a little bit like Irene did, we could have some issues for a day.
And the good news is?
The good news is we'll probably bounce back after this and have a beautiful Indian summer. I did want to mention as well, because of this storm and the potential impact that it could have on the area, this is the time to begin individual preparedness. You need to check your emergency supplies. You need to make sure that you have enough water to last you and your family for 3 days at least. One of the issues that we have in this area particularly is if we lose electricity, there are a lot of pumps out there that won't work without electric power. And that means no drinking water and no hygiene water. So at least plan for 1 gallon per person per day. And if you have room to store for more than 3 days, by all means store. Water is something that you can use always. I brought a 1-page tip sheet that I brought several copies. There are some up here at the front, and there are some over here on the side. Please feel free to help yourself to a copy. I'm also going to post this on Facebook, and we're going to try to get it posted to the county website so that people can access it. A few things just to keep in mind. If we do get this bad weather, we know now that there's a potential for this to impact the area. Please try to plan so that you don't have to be on the roads during this storm. If you know that you're running low on a prescription, now is the time to see if you can get it refilled before the bad weather hits. Might be a good idea to check in with family and friends too and come up with a plan to keep tabs on each other during the storm. I'll
You
answer
take
any
Saturday
questions.
to check on him, and I'll take Sunday.
Susan, thank you very, very much for doing
You're
that for
very
us
Did
today.
I ask what the good part of this is?
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you,
You're
Susan.
very welcome.
That's all I got, sir.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Rudd. Good evening. Saw that you had some participation at the beginning of it, and I appreciate that, sir. We always love to hear from you. Yeah, I know. Commissioners,
Sir, I'm going to forego the reading of the calendar, which will be posted on the website sometime in the near future because I have another meeting to attend as soon as we get done with this one, so.
okay, sir. Mr. Valentine?
Earlier this week, I did go bear hunting, and I want to make sure that everybody's clear that bear was B-E-A-R, not B-A-R-A, so I was safe.
Okay. All right. Ms. Linda, did we have anybody sign up? No? Okay. I'd like to remind everyone of our next public business meeting will be November 1st, 2012 at 5 o'clock in room 100. Our next public work session will be November the 15th, 2012 at 3 o'clock in room 212. I'd like to remind everyone the announcement from the Allegheny County Election Office information, as well as the US 40 alternate Lower LaVale bicycle feasibility study will be Tuesday, October 30th, 2012 at 7 o'clock at the LaVale Volunteer Fire Department, 421 National Highway. I understand Commissioner Brody will be taking care of that for us. That the
Hopefully.
Another announcement that the Salary Study Commission will have a meeting on Wednesday, October 31st, 2012 at 3:30, 701 Kelly Boulevard in room 408. Also like to remind everyone that our compost site fall hours have begun. As we like to end every meeting, we'd like to thank you for participating in your government, and I hope you have a nice evening.